I'm going to make a series of videos that discuss the construction of verb forms by the voice and mood and tense of the verb. So in this first video, we're going to look at the indicative, active forms. I'm hoping we might make it through all of the present system in this video. So that means we'll cover the present, imperfect, and future tenses for each of the first, second, third I, and fourth conjugation verbs. So we'll start with the present tense. So you'll remember that's how I say I love, I am loving, I do love. And for the first conjugation, we form the present stem by using the second principal part minus the RE plus our personal endings. The exception would be first person singular. So I'm going to have singular plural, first, second, and third. And I'm going to have the verb form amo. So for first conjugation, I will use amo, amari as my example. For all of the rest of the forms, I'm going to have ama, that's second principal part minus the RE. And then I'm going to add my personal endings. I have my O, S, T, mus, tis, and T. For all except the third person, singular and plural, I'm going to add my long marks. Amo, amasamat, amamasamatasamat. Second conjugation, I'm going to use the verb dokeo, dokera. Now, you may remember that the first conjugation can be recognized by that long A-R-E, second principal part or infinitive. So when you look up a verb in the dictionary and you see a second principal part that's long A-R-E, you know that it follows the first conjugation rules. Here, dokeo, dokera, that long E-R-E tells us that it's second conjugation and will follow second conjugation rules. Now, for the present system, it forms exactly like the first conjugation. So I'm going to take my first principal part, dokeo, and then for all the rest, I'm going to use dokera minus that RE. Just like with the first conjugation, I'm going to reserve my long marks until the end. I then add my personal endings. I have my O, S, T, mus, tis, and T. I'm going to add long marks to all but the third. Dokeo, dokes, doket, dokemus, doketus, dokent, to teach. Now we hit third conjugation. Third conjugation has a mind of its own. We use the first principal part for all of these forms, and we're going to remove the O from that first principal part. So an example of a third conjugation verb is traho, trahara. I'm going to use this principal part, and I'm going to take that O off. Again, I'm going to have singular, plural, first, second, and third. Traho comes down just like it did here, and there. Traho. Now for all the rest, remember I'm just cutting off that O. Now our endings for third conjugation, present tense, are a little different than the personal endings that we use for first and second. They still have the first and second, but they have to carry a vowel with them because we have no vowel here. So it's o, is, it. Imus, itis, und. None of these forms takes a long mark. Those are all short I's. O, is, it, imus, itis, und. Now we also have third conjugation I. Some people call them I-O. I was originally taught I. I've since started saying I-O, but you might hear me say either because I really was taught I. Third I. So what's our example verb? Capio, capere. So we see that same short E-R-E, but now instead of just an O, we have an I-O. Like up here we had E-O. And when we cut off that O, we're going to end up with an I. And you might notice over here we had is, it, imus, itis, und. So what happens is we had to find a way to describe the pattern, right, that we form. That's our whole goal in Latin, is to write an algorithm, a formula that we can then apply to many verbs. So if I do capeo, and then in here I cut off the O, I would have cap it is. What happens is those two I's merge into one. It doesn't elongate, it stays a short I, but where do we see it? So if I go through and do all the forms, if I just told you to cut off the ERE, I would get is, it, imus, itis, but this form would be wrong because I have the I and the U. So the way that we describe it, the algorithm that we use, is that we still take the first principal part minus the O, just like we did with trajo. But the two I's combine where they can, and that's how we keep the I for capiunt. Fourth, we're back to easier. We take our second principal part minus the RE for most of our base. The example we're going to use is audio, audire. I've got singular, plural, first, second, third. Audio. And then I'm going to cut off the RE. Oh, sugar. That should be A-U-D-I, 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 A-U-D-I. And then we're going to add those personal endings. Up here I'm going to write second principal part minus the RE plus personal endings. Here first plus special, and first minus O plus special. So O or M, S, T, mus, tis, and T. I need my long marks for my first and second person forms. So what do we need to notice? Fourth is just like first and second. How do I tell fourth and thirds apart? Notice where I have long I's in the fourth that I do not in our third forms. And then und versus int. There it comes back, versus int. Now we form future. So first and second, I know we did imperfect first, but in the red book on page 28, it goes future next. And since you all have the red book now, I hope we'll stay following their order. So first and second conjugation use the present stem, which is that second principal part minus the RE, plus bow, bis, bit, bimus, bitus, bunt. And they form, so this is future, first and second conjugation. Now, future for third and fourth is a bit different. In this case, we take our present stem, so it forms differently whether it's third or fourth, right? Third is first minus the O, and we keep in mind that if we have two I's together, it equals an I. And fourth, present stem, is second principal part minus the RE. However we get to that present stem, for future, we add ace et, amus, adus, ent. That's an N. So I would have traham, trahes, trahet, trahemus, trahedus, trahent. Capiam, capies, capiate, capiamus, capiatus, capiaint. That's why for this capeo, we focus on first principal part minus the O, rather than trying to deal with that second principal part. And then audio, audiam, audiace, audiate, audiamus, audiatus, audiaint. Imperfect. 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 For first and second conjugation, we take our present stem, remember that second principal part minus the RE, and we add bom, bos, bot, bomus, botus, bon. Now that won't work with our present stem for second and third, because we can't go trabom. Well, we kind of could, but for most seconds, thirds, we couldn't. What we add instead is abom, abos, abot, abomus, abatus, abont. And that is true for third eye, and fourth. So I have audiabom, audiabos, audiabot, audiabomus, audiabotus, audiabont. I think that's one reason fourth goes to the other side of third. I also think it has linguistical developmental reasons, but fourth for present looks much more like first and second, but for imperfect and future, it has more in common with third. It uses the other set of future endings, ace, et, amus, adus, ent, and it adds that long E for abom, abos, abot, abomus, abotus, abont. So that is, in a single page, the entire present active indicative. I will stop there and call that good.